Hi, I'm Ange Mlinko, and I'm reading today from Foxglovewise. This is the Iliad in a Scottish cemetery. The culinary garden on the burial grounds raises a few eyebrows, but not the dead. There's lovage, chamomile, pineapple, sage. The graven names are old Scottish names. On my headphones, though, is the Iliad, so my eyes take in Prestons, Greys, and Grahams as my ears do Agamemnon, Calchas, Diomedes. On a plinth, a bas-relief of storm-tossed seas commemorates a mariner. The catalogue of ships survives in unfamiliar polysyllables. Names don't translate. A mouth of pebbles, they slow the language roaring down the page. I'm in two foreign countries at once, by turn testing on my tongue the umami of these sounds, iron-laced water like blood-anointed spear tips, and the tangy granite in the skirling burn. The cemetery of pseudonyms. Where do stargazers go in a city of light? Here, where shadows draw back lids on the abyss, where trees raise a toast, blossoms brimming to the height at which a note will crack, where it's your word against your dust. The area initially seems too small to accommodate so many pharaohs and consorts. Reduced as an amphora to its handle, the person, after all, may be shelved neatly in rows and archived in the font of her era. Up, down, and across, the crypts feature mid-century names which used properly to be faces, and typed at that. The scripts graven into plates have the same effect as an iconostasis. As though this were a tumulus accidentally excavated where parking was planned, the empty flower sconces look like libation flutes that sated the gods with a tip of the hand. Note the burial of the burial ground inside a city block, incognito, din of traffic, sunlight enough for a star to hide in. Are we bound to the soil we're born or consigned to? Or do we root in the air like an epiphyte? Those unplanted plants, they would be like words whose roots trail into myth, a mixed medium, no monolith. Likewise, our souls are in our names, which flee the gravestone, and like the moth, invent themselves out of whole cloth. It is none other than Apollo driving a yellow SLK 320 on the 405. When I see him again at the Getty, our Acropolis, you said, I am slow to absorb the lesson I am given. A god's name has no etymology. All Souls Night. One sleepless night, something possessed me to dig up the box I'd kept for 30 years and lay out the wooden pieces, blonde and ebony, on the table, accounting for my chevaliers. A real feat after all the moves I'd made. This was the set with which I learned to play, the set that gave my dad and mom's dad a pastime during visits on a holiday when the TV Von Trapp family singers glossed the war that was their central fact. These were the figures well worn by their fingers, and for all my moves, they're here intact. That night, I also hunted down the pushkin my grandfather had, a haunted book. It knows the ways I betray my origin, preserving aspirational stanzas whose look on the page I liked too much to translate. As with my family, what I couldn't understand gained in fascination, verve, weight. Cyrillic took on the features of its land, but time is running out. The sun will flood grace on a state I'll likely never see, and the figures now revert to wood at these words for the dead who raised me. The Empire of Flora. A tossing garden in a rising wind, an air of expectation, and Claire tutoring me on the landscaping, pagoda plants, crotons, a kind of blue ginger, over there, African lilies, bellwethers of spring. When she points me to Loriopes, I expect the terrace to be inhabited by a feminine miniature nymph or naiad out of ancient Greece who makes a cushy, scented bed for fauns, or Jupiter himself. I've forgotten that cerulean Loriope is the mother of Narcissus. The empire of Flora, Claire says, is a disquieting kaleidoscope, limbs and hair and faces of those that love discountenances. For, as if I needed reminding, immoderate love comes to no good. Claire is wearing a crisp white shirt. To garden in? Ah, she's rewinding her lecture on Poussin, who could take the measure of our hurt and scale it to the interface between roiling heavens and rock terrain. Now, instead of pointing out plants, she's mapping the labyrinthine myths of that famous picture plane. Smilax sprawls on crocus, Clytie pants after Phoebus, but what she wants to show me is the distancing of Narcissus from close-seated echo. Look at how desire taunts. Gazing is at right angles to listening. That tells you all you need to know. The ear at right angles to the eye. I never thought. And now the rain. White-haired Claire in her shirt, spotless, linen, practically a shroud. My new garden seeds. Palmetto's fan. We put a frame around the dirt. Art tourism. Just as Jupiter spirited the girl to Crete, this canvas was conveyed over the sea and must surf its contradictions or drown. It looks as though Europa, her pose indiscreet, should tumble onto us pretty heavily. Nothing ruffles the bull's flower crown. My memories of being young here surface as a kind of automatism. Lo, my feet take over. Streets haven't moved, buildings have stayed anchored. I hear as a couple kneels, pointing out a window to their child. That's where we lived. Past the public garden, whose willows are muscly, past the clock repairs and watch hospital, we're reminded that turning back the hands throws the interior mechanism into arrears, though not a minute is rescinded. Past the public clock, then, and the chime it wears in its funny hat. Once the hours had names and designated prayers. Now they're occasions for alarm, mere time that at its leisure rubs out our powers as we wear away the stone of subway stairs. So, just as Jupiter spirited the girl to Crete, this canvas was conveyed over the ocean, and sails too were made of canvas. We make pilgrimages, we pay tribute, as its backward glancing heroine is a painter's tribute to a poet's stanzas. We catch her at the end of her tour. Her bodyguards are cherubs armed with arrows. Even on our continent, there's royalty. The Princess of Tyre has undergone restoration, charmed, vivid, and no less the frightened immigrant. Thank you.